Good morning and welcome to Peace Out, where we are all learning together to just peace out, right? I hope we're all learning it together anyway, right? I know I'm learning it. As a matter of fact, I'm having to practice it this morning. Now, I'll spare you all the details because it's not really all that big a deal. But I'm learning this morning that I got to trust God, right? I've got to peace out and just let that peace reign and let Him guide me. And then I have to listen. I ask, have you ever had someone like your kids? They want your help, and then when you help them, they tell you they don't want it, or they don't listen. I know I've counseled people before, or advised them, or helped them work through things, and gone, yeah, this is, and that we decide on this way. Yeah, I think this is right. Now I don't make the decision for them, right? But you kind of give that guidance, and then they go, yeah, they got it all together. This is great, and then they just don't do it, and it's like, well, what happened to your plan, right? And so our plan today is to let God's peace reign, give Him what we need to give Him, accept His peace, let it reign, trust Him. And that's really what I'm going to talk about today, because I saw something about David. So we talked about David earlier this week, and I'm reading 1 Samuel, of course, and he's facing Goliath, and he tells Saul in that story, in chapter, I think, 17. Go look it up. I said the wrong chapter yesterday. Anyway, so go look it up. But anyway, he told Saul, he said, the lion came, the bear came, and took my sheep. And I chased them down and took the lamb out of their jaws, the jaws of the lion, right? So David understood protecting the sheep. He understood God as a shepherd. Duh, Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd. He understood that the shepherd watched out for the sheep. The shepherd not only watched out for them, but he protected. He took them to where they could eat. He took them to where they could drink. He made sure they were safe and had everything they needed. So he understood God in that way, right? And so this morning in Psalm, let's see, I've got two verses here. In Psalm 22, verse, the numbers are little, 21, he says this, snatch me from the lion's jaw and from the horns of these wild oxen. And so David had found himself in a bind. And so he's asking God, snatch me from the lion's jaws. Now, what's significant about that little scripture in Psalm 22 is this. He got it. He knew exactly what he was praying because he had snatched lambs and sheep from the jaws of lions. So he knew if he could do it as a shepherd, that his shepherd could do that. Isn't that the coolest scripture, the coolest prayer? Because he's like, I know that I chase down the enemy to my sheep, and I don't let them have them. So I know God can chase down the enemy, my enemy, as his sheep, and he can snatch me from the lion's jaw, from whatever's trying to take me over, from whatever's trying to overcome me, from whatever's trying to get me off course. God can snatch me from the jaws of the enemy. And so he based his prayer on what he knew as a shepherd. And he knew that because of the characteristics he had as a shepherd, he knew God was his shepherd and he would do the same thing. That is the epitome of trust. And I loved that scripture. But then there was another scripture over here, and I don't know how I got both of these scriptures right, but it's in Psalm 59. And he prays this. He says, let's see, you are my strength, O Lord. Let's see, verse 9. You are my strength. I wait for you to rescue me, for you, O God, are my place of safety. And so David was saying, I know God is my shepherd and I am his sheep. And so he's going to come and snatch me out of the enemy's jaw. Have you ever been snatched? And then he says in Psalm 59, I'll wait for you. I just got this picture. Can you imagine that? Here I am dangling in the jaws of a lion, waiting for God to snatch me. Have you ever been in that kind of position? Not a real lion, of course, but has a problem ever had you? It felt like the jaws were closing in on you. You can feel their teeth. You feel the force of them running with you, trying to get you away, because they don't kill you there. Your problems want to take you somewhere where it's safe for them and they can devour you. So the plan isn't to devour you right there, but that is their plan. And you feel like life are those jaws just closing in on you. And yet you got to pray, God, I'm waiting for you. Yeah. Oh yeah, I got a couple of situations in my life right now that kind of feel like that. Not quite as bad. Thankfully it's not really like that, but it's kind of like that. And so when you're dangling in the jaws of the lion, you're dangling in the jaws, being like a vice grip, squeezing in on your peace, squeezing in on your soul, trying to take your peace, trying to distract you, trying to get you off course, and trying to get you away so you could be devoured. And my prayer has to be, our prayer has to be, God, I'm waiting for you to rescue me. That is trust. That is hope. And that is where we have God's grace. So if you're waiting on God to rescue today, know that He's on His way. He's got peace, even if you're in the vice grip of life, if you're in the crucible of life. He's got that peace. He's still got you covered with grace. He's still got mercy. His mercies were still new this morning for you. And He's not left you alone in the battle. As a matter of fact, the reason the problem is running with you in the vice grip of their jaws is because God's right on their tail. And God's fixing to just snatch you out. But we just got to trust Him. We just got to wait for Him. And that's easy to say, but it's not always easy to do, right? But the thing is, we can. I think of our Bible heroes. I'm thinking of Daniel. He waited 70 years. As a matter of fact, at the end of Daniel, he said, okay, God, Jeremiah promised that we would be in captivity 70 years, and I've been counting, and it's been 70 years. When are you going to come? That was his whole prayer towards the end of the book of Daniel. His prayer that we like to take that Daniel's prayer and go, oh, Lord, I wasn't planning on going there, right? We like to take Daniel's prayer, and I think it's chapter 9. Yeah, Daniel chapter 9 is Daniel's prayer, and he's like, okay, God, it's been 70 years. He said, oh Lord, you are great and awesome. He says, Lord, you have got us, and we know we have failed you, and now we're asking you to come, right? And so we want to take his prayer. It's a really powerful prayer. And I know we've prayed it in different churches and different prayer groups I've been in and stuff, but we don't have the 70 years experience to go into that prayer, thank God, right? 70 years he's been a captive. His life was taken away from him. He was incapacitated when it came to bearing children, and he served his whole life and as a prisoner in the king's court, fortunately, because God exalted him. Even in his captivity, God had his hand on him. Even in his captivity, God blessed him. Our circumstances don't dictate our lives. God dictates our lives. And so we want to take this prayer, but we don't have the blood on our testimony that Daniel has on his, right? God, we have this prayer, and he's like, and we just want to pray it, and it's a nice prayer, but we don't understand the pain that births the prayer. However, we do understand the pain that births our prayers. And so here he is, Daniel's been waiting. It has to be similar to Joseph, right? Joseph had waited all those years for that dream. He had married, he had children, he was grown. And all his young years he had spent as a slave. And yet God was in his circumstances. His circumstances didn't dictate his relationship to God except to drive him to God for protection, for peace, for comfort, for hope. So today I pray that if we're dangling in the jaws of the vice grip of life, just know we can still trust God. He hasn't left us. He will not let it crush us. And we can trust him for one more day. We can trust him with everything. We can wait on him to snatch us out of the jaws of the lion. Why? Because he is our good shepherd. He will not let the crucible of life crush the good stuff, right, out of us. He is with us. He's got us, and we can peace out. Peace out. Trust him for today. I'll see you bright and early Monday morning because I'm taking this weekend off. But I'll see you bright and early Monday morning.